Hello and welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything at all, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/Tavern Double Feature Podcast. But Nathan, I was at my local Bed Bath and Beyond the other day, and I was
Oh,
looking
you
at some,
were.
yeah, I was looking at some kitchen gadgets.
hmm
And I was looking at some of them, and some other lady was looking at them too. And I said, "Oh yeah, these look pretty interesting, don't they?" And she said, "Yeah, they produce a lot of quality content with these kitchen gadgets." And then she's kind of like, the Drive-In Double Feature podcast Patreon. Over there on Patreon, they have it's only $5 a week. You get some fun flick fights, you get some fun conversations, and you get some BuzzFeed quizzes over there that Nathan and Ryan, uh, you know, give to us so generously. And I really wish they would know how much I appreciate it. And I said, I think they know.
And guess what? We do know. I would
So,
I would have liked the story better if this lady hooked her phone Bluetooth up to one of the the Bluetooth speakers on the wall and started playing our podcast. But maybe you'll run into that next time. Who knows?
well, Nathan, that's my real interaction. I don't make these up at the spot.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm being stupid. You're right.
So maybe one day that'll happen. But like she was saying, it doesn't affect any regular content whatsoever, and it's only $5 a month. But today we're going to be talking about 1970s Space Amoeba. And Nathan, it's directed by Ishirō Honda. He's back.
Yes, he's always here. We are starting to run low on Ishirō Honda movies. I feel
Oh,
like
I hope not.
We're gonna start doing his family dramas.
Hey, I'm down. But anyway, uh, this movie is Space Amoeba. I I just wanted to kind of put in a movie just to kind of break up from our next series, which I was going to start at the beginning of next year.
Mhm.
So I wanted to kind of break it up. And this one was the one that was on the Criterion channel that we have not covered. And I was like, you know what? We might as well just do all the movies that are
Yeah.
on the Criterion channel just to make sure we've seen them all. And this one was on there. This one is about a giant cuttlefish, or that's underwater. Because basically what happens in this movie is that there is a space probe that gets launched into outer space, and it gets taken over by this alien substance, alien amoeba-like thing,
Yeah, like a parasite.
and ends up crash landing into Earth. And the thing is, they everyone keeps saying that the space probe disappeared, and they're
hmm
like, "Oh no, like what did we happen to it?" But then there's this one photographer that apparently he's the only one in the entire world that
The
sees the
only one that
space
sees it.
probe.
Because we
The
see him
only
on
one
the
that
plane and he's looking out the window and then
he's like, "Oh,
oh my god, and he starts taking pictures. I think that's a funny bit in this movie. Because he shows up to the newspaper office and nobody believes him. He's like, yeah, no, I saw it come back. It was missing. And everyone's like, oh, you idiot. We can tell that you didn't actually get good pictures and you needed to make up a story. Oh, I don't know. It's silly.
yeah." Well, because like he knows that it crashed out of the sky, and he really wants to go investigate it. And they're like, "Okay, that's obviously a hoax. Like, no, we're not
Mhm.
going to let you go do that," because he works for like a newspaper at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
And but it just so happens that there is a very rich tycoon that's going to be opening up at a resort. It just so happens to be on that island where
Yeah.
that crash land, where that space probe crash lands. And at first, he wants to hire him because I guess he's like really known for being a photographer. And because he's like, I want this really rich guy is like basically like, I want you to come to my island, and I want you to kind of just do like a little photo shoot and just make sure that my island looks amazing for when it
hmm
does open up.
Yeah.
And at first he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I've got journalistic integrity. I'm not gonna exploit my skills just for something like that. But then once he finds out that's where the space probe was near, he's all for it. He's like, all right, let's go check it out.
Yeah, I gotta go and take some photos. Well, we gotta talk about really quickly from the beginning of the movie, the space shuttle launch, which is like a miniature and it launches up in the air. I just want to say the miniature looked really cool. I think the miniatures and it's been a little bit like I feel like I mean we cover monster movies all the time, but it's just always nice seeing like miniatures at work.
Yeah, because you could see it floating out in outer space, and it's got the little string on it
Uh-huh.
attached to. So it's this movie definitely uses a lot of up close miniatures, which we'll get
Yeah.
into in a little bit. But because like when the monster shows up, you actually start seeing like some people miniatures, which is like really funny to see.
Yes.
Um, but how it works is that once the space probe crash lands into the ocean,
Hmm.
the space amoeba departs from that and it actually possesses a cuttlefish. And,
Hmm.
and what it can do is it can turn these cuttlefishes into giant monsters. So like this giant cuttlefish just becomes alive, and it's just like it's so funny looking at because it looks like this giant squid looking thing,
Yeah.
and 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 like for its feet, it's like walking on its tentacles.
Yeah, it's very silly. But that's what I kind of like about this movie, or one of the little things I like about this movie is the monsters, because they are based off of reality. So they're like really, they're just kind of ugly. Like as we find out later, there's a crab, and like it has like it just looks like an ugly stone crab as a monster, and it's something a little different. It reminded me of my favorite Ebra.
Oh, true. You're like, I wish it was a lobster and not a crab.
Yeah, I was hoping he would show up.
That'd be kind of cool if he did show up and he was like the good guy.
Yeah, but no, this is not Godzilla related. This is based on science and facts.
It
Hmm.
is. I mean, this is what an amoeba would do.
Yes,
And
yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of what it is like they go into this island and basically like the natives are telling them like we got to really watch ourselves here. And they do, and once again they go for the effort of like they hire Japanese actors to play like these island natives.
Yeah.
And if you notice like they're like they're like a shade darker like on their skin than like
Yes.
everybody else. And I'm like, I think they just painted these guys once again. Because I mean, they did that in King Kong versus Godzilla, where it's like full on. They just use like
Yeah,
paint because like
yeah.
because in that one it was like, and it was really clear too because like you'd look at like some of their clothes and it was like it would like the paint wouldn't line up all the way or
Hmm.
whatever. And in this one, I think they just, I don't know, use like a
Bronzed them.
toner or yeah, bronze them or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. This is more like they just I don't know, just a little tan. Wasn't like brown face levels of some of the earlier ones. But yeah, we have these native islanders that can speak Japanese because I guess the island that they're on used to
Hmm.
be the Japanese had actually taken it over during World War II. So there's actually that explains why later there's tons of guns and ammunition on this island.
Well, yeah, and they make the point too of being like, oh, like their Japanese is really good.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. We're like, oh yeah, we took them over so they can speak Japanese, and that's it. Like explained easy.
Yeah. So when they when they do see this giant cuttlefish, like because the cuttlefish, I guess, is the one that you see the most, I want to
Hmm.
say.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
they call that Gizora. And what it is like I said, giant cuttlefish. Like there's at one point where like two natives are like in a little hut type of
Hmm.
thing, and the cuttlefish comes in and destroys everything, and it ends up killing one of them,
And
and that's where we see the giant cuttlefish like pick up somebody, and it's
hmm
very clearly like a
it's like a
dummy.
toy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like his body's all flopping around and everything.
And then of course it has the audio in the background of it screaming. It's silly. It made me laugh because I passed through this movie twice and I saw it again. I was like, oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, so it's very clearly like they want to do like it remind me, I forget which one it was, but do you remember that one monster movie where it's like the one guy committed suicide by jumping
Oh
off of a
yeah, and his
cliff?
oh yeah, and his dummy
I, and they
fell. I
and they
forget which
like
one that was.
they just show a dummy falling out of a window instead of like
Yeah,
cutting away.
but I like that. I think you know what? They're giving us entertainment here.
It's just funny. Like they're like, oh yeah, this is the best we got. So, um,
Yeah.
but this cuttlefish though, his powers is that he has his body temperature is super cold,
Yep.
and it's because he when like the people he does pick up, he does end up burning them, like giving them like freezer burn basically, where it's just like they have like
Hmm.
these little rings on them, and he does show up to like the natives village, and they're like, oh my god, Gizora, and like the chief or whatever starts like praising it, like oh, like, and starts bowing
Hmm.
towards it and everything, and he just like slaps him away.
Yeah. No, I like that stuff. I can tell you one thing I didn't really love about this movie. I think the characters are so boring. Oh my God. It's like a ragtag group of like characters, photographer, a girl, like an older
Scientist.
wiser guy, scientist, and that's it. And I was like, oh, I am not. I personally, I wasn't into the story at all.
No, I mean, which is weird though, because they do try to set up like this redemption arc for the
Hmm.
evil guy in the movie. Because it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so like the whole movie, like I said, is this guy, the his name is Obata. So I just want to say that. So it's
Hmm.
like he's the guy that's trying to open up this island. And there's clear evidence that this cuttlefish is destroying the village and parts of the island. And people are saying, like, there's a giant monster like destroying our village. And he's like, it's a big hoax. Like, I don't care. This is you guys just trying to scare us off
Hmm.
type of thing. And they don't really, like it kind of sets him up like he's going to be like the bad guy of this movie.
Yeah.
And but later, though, I mean, they do eventually stop Gizora. So Gizora is able to be stopped because it is severely burned um, by some of the fire, like the fire barrels that have been left behind on the island.
Hmm.
And it does end up dying. So you think, okay, like cuttlefish is dead or whatever. But no, like you said, the space amoeba is able to actually transfer itself and go into other monsters. So, and then it
Yes.
starts possessing a giant stone crab.
Yeah. Yeah. It possesses a giant stone crab, but it ends up going to people later on as well.
Well, see, I guess the one thing I don't like about this movie is that how easy to defeat some of these monsters are.
Yeah, that is true.
And like, because when the stone crab shows up, they're able to just they were able to just beat it up with like kill it with like a gun.
Yeah, don't they like put it in a hole? Like it ends up like in a trench or something and they just shoot the crap out of it.
Yeah, well, like he ends up coming in and like the photographer guy like steals one of the guns and like shoots its eyeballs off.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And all the gun sounds in this movie, I don't know, this is a small thing, but it sounds like sci-fi laser guns, like Star Wars,
Yeah,
whatever that is. Um, it just
what is
sounds like
that?
it just sounds like something that it would be that would use that kind of stuff.
Uh, oh, maybe.
Hmm.
Well, yeah. So like the whole thing is like these things are they're able to explode them no problem, but then they find out that I guess like their main weakness is actually supersonic waves.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So their big scheme is like, okay, so after that one crab gets unpossessed, like you said, it does go into Obata, the rich guy,
Hmm.
and it doesn't seem to affect him that bad, other than like he's like trying to use the volcano to actually destroy the island because
Hmm.
spoiler alert, he's an alien this whole time and they want to take over the world.
I can't believe that. Oh, they had that's such a Honda thing to throw in a movie like this.
It's like, oh, it's this is technically an alien invasion movie
Yeah,
now.
we have aliens in this movie now. But yeah, but the amoeba has like taken him over. But he's like also like you said, he has a redemption arc because he actually protects everybody because they're like, Obata, you're better than this. I know you're better than this. And that like convinces him, even though he's being taken over.
Yeah. And then this one, like so the amoeba is able to possess this guy, and then possesses another crab, and then possesses a turtle
Yes,
too.
yeah.
And this is like it's just funny because it almost feels like Toho's attempt at making their own Gamera a little bit.
Oh, I didn't think of that connection. I could see that.
Because Gamera was already a thing at this point.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, like the two monsters are attacking. I'm thinking like, well, if it could possess two monsters at once, why didn't it do that in the first place?
Oh yeah,
And
or why didn't it possess more people?
I don't know, but apparently that's what it can do. So it's like, oh no, there is no limit to possessing. But what ends up happening is like they try to like lure these monsters into this cave, or like they try to get like all the bats in one spot. So they get
Yes.
like all these bats, and what they try to do is they're going to release the bats all at once when the monsters get near.
Yeah,
But then Obata, who's possessed, is like trying to burn all these bats alive by setting
that's
the
right.
volcano on fire. He's like
Yes.
trying to murder bats, and
And it's a ton of bats too.
yeah, like and little bats on strings type of
Of
thing.
course,
And
but it's fun.
but he does uh eventually get to his senses, and he does let the bats out, and then the bats come out and start going over the crab and the turtle, and they're like, ah, my ears type of thing. And
Hmm.
it's a very silly moment where they're just talking about like um like how this movie yeah, like it just feels very much like the like supersonic waves. Like I feel like we've seen the supersonic
Oh
wave
yeah.
thing like so many times at this
Loud
point.
noises, anything to do
Loud.
with that.
It's like, oh my God, fire hurts it. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
when gunfire, we can shoot it this time. That'd actually be a fun twist. But yeah, but then we get the two monsters fighting each other because they go crazy at the end. Better part of the movie, seeing these two monsters like fight each other.
It would have been kind of entertaining if it was like maybe one of them broke the spell or
Hmm.
something, and then it was fighting the other ones like it was
Oh
like a
yeah.
good guy maybe, but couldn't have that unfortunately. But yeah, the movie just ends up doing pretty predictable. I will say though, at the very end, they do kind of like the monsters do fall into like the volcano, and they
Hmm.
get burned alive by the lava, and then Obata, who's still possessed by the amoeba, just dives headfirst into the lava and kills himself.
Yeah, it had me laughing. I thought that was so silly.
It's like, and like the one girl is like distraught
Yeah,
that Obata is
because she surprisingly cares a lot about him, like the whole movie.
like, oh, no,
Yeah.
no, and he just jumps right in there, and she's very, very upset about it.
Hmm.
But then they're like, oh yes, like this is the only way you could do it. And like there's so many like dumb lines in this movie. Like, oh God, there's one point I didn't remember. So there's one thing I didn't mention. So there's a scene where like the two natives get attacked by Gazora in the hut.
Hmm.
One dies and one gets totally traumatized,
Yes,
and
yeah.
like where he becomes speechless.
Hmm.
And this whole time there's this island native girl. It's like oh my God, like this is gonna be my husband. I was gonna marry him. And she's like, they end up having a wedding while he's still like in a vegetative state.
Oh my
Like,
God.
ah, like he is still like full on like eyes open, not blinking, not speaking. And she's like, I want you to come to our wedding. And he's just like, just totally just staring off into space during this whole
Gets
time.
forced into a wedding.
Yeah. And she wants this wedding no matter what.
Yeah, she
Like
has
this
to
is
get married.
like this is gonna happen whether he's awake or not.
Hmm.
And but he is able to come out of it. He's just like, and it's just like right in the middle of the wedding. And so that
Yes.
there is that moment. There's the scientist that at first was like because he was like wanting to like because I remember they were talking about wanting to kill these monsters, and the scientist is like, how can we study these things if you guys are ended up killing it or whatever type of thing? Like, how
Hmm.
can we learn from it? And everyone's just like, we just want to live. And
Yeah.
and but then later this scientist suddenly becomes like an expert on like alien technology because
Yes.
when Obata gets possessed, he's like, Obata's like kind of fighting it and he runs off.
Hmm.
And he's like, the scientist is like, I believe he still has a chance to fight it if he, even after getting possessed by this amoeba. And I'm like, based off what? Like,
Well, doesn't he
you're
says it earlier in the movie, like, don't they ask him questions? He's like, I have to do research first. And that now he's an expert.
right, exactly. He said he didn't know what he was talking about, but now all of a sudden he's like, oh no, he's got a fighting chance. He could go back to being normal.
So
And I'm like,
silly.
wow. It's,
But we don't,
uh,
I guess in kaiju movie logic and some of these, it's just like, okay, whatever works for the script.
exactly. But yeah, that's how the movie ends. Obata ends up jumping into the
Yeah.
lava, and
And they
that's
all are waving to the people that are going to save them. And I think the photographer's like, will any of them believe this story? Is this going to, well, no,
I
they won't.
wouldn't.
No,
I
not at
wouldn't.
all.
And but yeah, this movie did come out. I don't I'm not really sure if it was a hit or not, but I'm gonna say I don't think it was because I still think Toho was kind of struggling at this point
Yeah.
when it turns into monster movies. And I do know they did release this in America in 1971 as Yog, Monster from Space.
Nice. Yeah. They always got to give them the dumbest names.
Yeah, I let you don't like Yog?
No, that sounds like a caveman movie.
You wouldn't name us if you had a pet cuttlefish, you wouldn't name it Yog.
Well, now I would have to. My pet
But
my pet a cuttlefish.
it's my little cuttlefish.
I love to cuddle
But
with my cuttlefish, you know?
yeah,
Hmm.
they all need love. But
Hmm.
uh I wouldn't say I hated it. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if I would recommend it, but I do think the monster was unique enough,
Hmm.
like to the ability where it could possess the monster. I would have liked a little more monster in it and not a lot less of this like side character stuff or whatever. But I do think for what we got, it's not terrible.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's fine. I wouldn't recommend it. I just think I don't know. I guess the plot that brought it all together was kind of uninteresting to the point where I was a little scared, Ryan, that we were going to have enough to talk about on the show. But look, we
Oh,
did
I
it.
was taking notes for this one. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, it was okay. Definitely understandable why this is like a forgotten Ishirō Honda movie, or maybe not forgotten, but very much less popular of his movies.
Sure. I mean, I do like the designs of the monster. They do look very
Hmm.
silly, but I do love the look of the rubber suits in there that they
Oh
use.
yeah. Mhm.
I think they look great. But I would also I probably would not give it a recommend. I would probably just say, there's a lot better ones, and this one's fine for what it
Mhm.
is. You know, but it's not really worth the time either. I hate to say, but I think that's going to do it for this one. Um, for our Bon Moreau week, we're going to have to do something else. We're going to have to do another theme.
I
Something else is going to have
know.
to take over. So we'll have to see what theme we're going to be doing next time. But
Next
I,
year.
oh, true. But I think we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled program with what, Nathan?
All right. Well, Ryan, it's gonna be the last week of the year, and there is one thing that we haven't covered yet in Christmas. It's December. We always have to do this. We talk about Brad Jones and all that stuff, but let's go in the Brad Jones circle. Let's take a step out and let's talk about the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, which
What?
which is streaming right now on Amazon.
Oh my God. I
Are you
can't wait.
excited? You've never seen
I,
it, right?
I have never seen the Angry Video Game Nerd movie. I'm gonna watch this movie right at 5:40 p.m.
Oh, that's an odd time, but okay.
That's usually when I watch all my movies.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's a new year, and you know what I always think about the first of the year is going back to school. I have Christmas break is over. I'm
Uh-huh.
heading back to school, so
Yeah.
I I am going to pick 1975's Cooley High,
Oh,
uh,
okay. All right.
which is streaming on Tubi right now.
All right. Well, I'm excited to watch that one.
But if you have any thoughts and opinions about this podcast, please email us over at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on the Patreon at patreon.com/driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast. But until next time.
Until next time.